Hi there. I'm Kevin E. West, veteran television actor as well as the founder of the Actors Network. We're thrilled that you made the choice to purchase an ABG video, and we'd like Actor Biz Guru to become your personal career consultant for the business of showbiz. Look, whether you're 18, 55, or the parent of a child actor, you've taken a great step towards increasing the likelihood of your success. Our mission? Quite simple, to provide you with the most intelligent, educational information from experienced, top-notch Hollywood professionals. You now get the benefit of our more than 2 decades of active experiences and working relationships. This is years of hard work, so be sure you take advantage of it. And trust that the information provided by ABG is both accurate and cannot be found anywhere else in the world in one place. So with that said, let's get to it. Enjoy. Hi, Guy.
Hi, hello.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Guy, if the shot is typically good, what is normal? A normal number of takes that a non-star actor will get on their coverage?
You know, it varies, of course, depending on for me, the importance of the scene in the context of the whole episode. Some scenes are pure exposition and don't require, it's just, call it kind of laying pipe. This is information to take you to the next scene, So sometimes if you've done well by being the sounding board to the series regular, knowing that we have 5 more scenes to do after your scene, if you've done pretty good in 1 or 2 takes, that may be enough. Of course, a bigger scene with much more, with more characters, it requires more sizes, different size shots, and there you're going to be asked to do it many, many, many times. But it's just because every time you move the sound, the camera and the lighting, that's considered a setup. And the more setups takes up more time. But as an actor coming in, it can be overwhelming, and I wouldn't get too rattled if after 1 or 2 takes they go, okay, great, we got it, let's move on, because there's you're one of 1,000 moving pieces that day, and in a weird way, it's more of a sign of probably the reason why you got the job in the first place is that this is. A director has 1,000 things to be thinking about, and if they can check off the one thing, which is, who do I have in that part? Are they solid? Are they reliable? This is the reason I cast them. It's a great thing, because that's one less. Now I only have 999 things to worry about. I know that part in the hands of that person that I cast is good. So it's by doing few takes, sometimes it's a sign that, wow, this person's good.
So 1 take and moving on is great.
Yeah, it's usually that's a good thing. It's like 3 strikes, you're out. If I have to do more than three takes, I got to fix something.
Okay, so if I work with you for a day on a set as a guest star or co-star, or a couple of days, even maybe several days, and you say actually very little to me, how bad is that?
It's probably the opposite. I think your imagination and your mind gets the best of you sometimes, and it gets carried away, and you think, oh man, I've blown this. Or usually, it's usually the opposite. If you're not being spoken to other than just cursory blocking, that means you're doing well. I mean, I always say some of the best direction I've ever given is no direction, because if things are working, that's the best feeling in the world for a director, that there's a sense of progress. The crew likes it because it's like, okay, now we can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I would be an absolute fool to go and try and micromanage somebody's performance if what I'm getting in the first 1 or 2 takes is going to work fine. Generally, again, in the audition process, that's when I'll try stuff. I'll have you try it. Just do the same thing, but take away all the anger. Or if you do it well, with no anger, I'll say, oh, do a version where he's much angrier. Strictly as a litmus test, not because it's right or wrong, but when you leave the room, I can turn to my producers and go, that's the guy I want to work with, because I gave him a basic direction, and like that, turned on a dime, I saw a different performance. Same words. So generally, when you show up to do your thing, if you come in and you look great, and the first rehearsal you're great, and we start shooting, it's in some ways if it's over before you know what happened, you've done a great job.
Well, I ask Guy because actors get worried all the time, and so the question becomes, do you actually remember the silent but deadly, I didn't really talk to you actor?
Yes. Okay. And also, generally, I always say, when people come in on audition and their whole audition comprises, hey, he went that way, officer. If somebody can deliver that and in an audition thing and it's memorable, that's difficult to do. I always say sometimes the one lines are much more difficult to do and nail and not make a big production out of it than it is for somebody who comes in and has they're like the guest bad guy for 8 days of the 8 days. And I think that's how most actors get started, with those kind of one-liners, and hopefully they I don't know what to tell you, generally you'll make your way, the next one will be a little bigger, and almost more importantly than impressing directors and producers in this business is getting casting directors on your side and getting fans in the casting director ranks, because what they'll remember is, I threw this kid in here, whether it's a kid or an older, doesn't matter what age. I threw them in, they came in, they did the one line, they hired them, the producers and the director of that episode loved them. So the next episode I do of another show, and I need somebody, they're gonna remember you too, because you delivered for them. You made them look good. And look, believe me, I know a lot of casting directors are my friends, and they don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to have an actor come in, do a bad performance in an audition setting, leave, and have the producers turn to them and go, "What was that?" So they're going to do everything they can to bring in the best possible people, and they will remember you, as I hope a director will too.
Kind of the reverse of before, but as a director, how do you personally handle a co-star or guest star who shows up to their job and don't have their material prepared, can't remember their lines?
It's rare, but it happens. Believe it or not, like having lines memorized and things like that, that's usually what'll happen in an episodic setting. That'll usually happen with the regulars, because they've just worked 12 hours yesterday. They just got new pages, and there's a little bit of an excuse, or they have a bit of an excuse. But as somebody that's coming in, obviously, you want to do the best. You want to put your best foot forward. But it does happen where things have changed, or they maybe in their mind had pictured the blocking different, and now what they rehearsed so well for the last 3 days with their roommate in their apartment isn't quite lining up. So you just try, and for me, I just try and create an environment where they can't do it wrong. In other words, there's a way. We get a performance, and I can take them off to the side or say it right to them in front of everybody. It doesn't matter. I'll say, if that was a 5 on a 10 scale as far as your intensity, give me a 7. Try something. Again, hopefully I've cast that person, because in the audition process I've been able to find out that this is somebody that I can adjust and tune up and tune down. So I know they're capable of it. And then what it feels like, it's less of a condemnation, like you're doing it wrong and I need you to do it faster. It's more of a, hey, let's try this, which I like to do anyway. Even if somebody comes in and nails like 3 takes, perfect what I need, I'll say, I got what I need, we're doing good on time. Try one where you just do a version where you make no eye contact with this guy this time. Now, it may be the wrong way to go, but again, when you're editing back and forth between this actor and this actor, I don't need to use a take from beginning to end. Part of what the art of cinema is creating something that didn't happen in real life, meaning that you're taking pieces of a puzzle and you're making this beautiful puzzle in the end. Now, sometimes you're going to have more pieces than you need, and that's fine.
Well, yeah, but there's got to be some kind of a consequence for the actor who isn't prepared or doesn't get it right, right?
So sometimes if you're not 100% prepared, we can work around that. It's not ideal. And unfortunately, what can happen is that sometimes you will, if you didn't do a good job, you will see the finished product and there will be very little of you left. You don't want that. You want to have every second that you shot.
Yes, we do, because of ego and for demo reel purposes, for sure.
Because you've invited friends and your parents to watch, and it's really embarrassing when that happens.
These days, do the network executives actually require that you watch the audition tapes, or is it your option? And do you think that there are directors out there who don't watch them? Me
personally, I'm a huge anti-fan of that. I'm trying to think of the best word. I hate that, because I can't get a gauge on somebody by watching a performance because they've made their own, and that's not a bad thing. You've made your own choice of how you're going to do it, but I can't adjust somebody on the internet. and they've already done the audition the day before or whatever.
But you want to be in the room.
Problem is, casting offices are on one side of the hill, where your shooting's on the other side of the hill. For everybody to go jump, I mean, it makes sense. I guess it's a more green way to go, and they figure that if it's a smaller part, that they don't have to bother a lot of people to show up in one place at the same time, because in the course of making a show, there's many meetings, and your showrunner, who's your head writer, is usually in a story meeting, and then he's here and he's there and on the set. So it's become a necessary evil for smaller parts, and I've been burned on it where I've agreed that, okay, yeah, he'll be fine, and some, but it's also worked out great where I've cast people off tape, for lack of a better term, and it's worked out fine. But there's that chance that somebody's going to come in and do a horrible job, even though everybody loved they were great on the tape. But the problem is nobody's going to take the blame for that but the director, and so I have to really fight that. And I whether it takes me coming in on a Saturday, going all the way across town to the casting director's office, whatever it takes, I will try and be there in the room, because there's just no substitute for getting to know somebody and talking, and because I've learned things in cast actors, not so much off the audition, but because we've talked about something or they've come in with a question, and I just like the way how their approach to it.
But certainly your option, if you can't actually be at the callback or the audition, you're going to watch the audition tape and at least hire someone from that. You're certainly not going to have someone on set who just gets hired without you ever seeing them, right?
As a director, I think it's really important that you know who every face that's coming on the set is, and you're sort of creating this world that doesn't exist, and part of that mosaic is the different people that are going to be in the show.
When you're on set directing an hour drama episode, what is the most important thing for a non-star actor to understand about what's important to you?
Yeah, there's a ton of things going on that with things and people behind the scenes that maybe aren't even there on the set. So there's pressures that are on me that aren't present. Obviously the things that are happening there are pretty obvious. Like we got a half-hour lighting. We're waiting for this. This is going to happen. I can't get the little kid's supposed to cry. He can't cry. The dog won't walk to where he's supposed to walk. Children and animals, as you know. But there's also anything that I've shot already. Dailies are being watched back at the office, and there's a lot of eyes and a lot of opinions and a lot of people who are scrutinizing every move, every shot, every take, performance. It's an art, it's subjective, so one person's great performance is another person's over-the-top performance.
So if you walk by me and don't say anything, don't take it personally.
Not at all. Not at all. It's generally, me personally, I will say something, even if it's completely kooky. And I learned that sometimes just putting a hand on somebody's shoulder and saying, "How you doing?" can make the difference.
Kind of going off the question before, what percentage of time are you actually in the room at the callbacks for the auditions while they're being taped?
There's a lot that goes on that I have no knowledge of, which is, I guess, when you first come and talk to and basically read it for the casting director. I believe they narrowed down that pool, let's say for lack of a better number, from 10 to 5. Then those 5 will actually come and sit
For the callback?
Yeah, callback with the director, a few producers, and obviously whoever the casting director is, and somebody to read with.
And are you always there?
Yeah, oh yeah. The only reason I wouldn't be is if we're already shooting, because it's happened where sometimes we're shooting and an actor drops out for some reason, or maybe a part got written into the show where we need a cab driver, we need the tow truck guy that tells her I'm like, well, we haven't cast anybody. Well, and maybe that would be a small enough part where they would just show me or lead me to a website. But maybe they're going to have a session and they're going to have them come to sort of where I am, but obviously I can't just drop while we're already up and going. But that would be very rare that there would be a callback that I wouldn't go to.
Do you think there are some hour directors who wouldn't show up?
Yeah. It's amazing, the things of that you hear that certain people can't be bothered with. I learned early on that, and 12 years of being a camera operator, I watched it happen. As a camera operator, you're right there breathing the same air. It's like being in the ring with the boxers. So sometimes you're a little more intimate with the actors than even the director is. And I've seen where an actor's got no direction. They had never met the director before, and they're in a bit of a tailspin. They do fine, but I've also seen where it definitely affects their performance. And again, you learn. I think I learned more about how to be a director from watching bad directors shoot themselves in the foot than I did from the good. The good directors just inspired me and said, yeah, that's what I want to do when I grow up, or whatever.
Yeah, whenever that comes.
Yeah, someday.
Since obviously producers sort of run television, how much influence do you actually get on an episode you're directing in terms of the hiring of a co-star or guest star actor?
Every show's different. I've been in some sessions where the casting director will barely speak to me and look right past me to the showrunner. And I get it. I understand. That's the person they're beholden to. Ultimately, that might have been the person that said, I want to hire that casting director. So obviously their loyalties. And this is the person that they got to be on the phone with and talk to well after I'm gone, and have done this well before I got there. I mean, a commitment for a 1-hour episodic director is 3 weeks. It's 7 days of prep and 8 days of shooting. So, 3 weeks, and I'm in and out. So, and then I've been on other shows where the casting director will call me the first day and say, hey, for this part, was there anybody that you had in mind, or is there somebody, a type, an archetype that you had thought about? And maybe I have and maybe I haven't. So there's the two ends of the spectrum. If there's somebody that I feel like I want to fight for, I would definitely go out of my way. Hopefully I have some ammunition, and usually that ammunition is I've worked with this guy before and he's solid, he's great. I've been on shows where I fought for my guy, and the person that I got instead was somebody that the showrunner was a fan of from another show. And so, at a certain point I have to go, okay, I get that. I wasn't a fan of that show, but I remember who that was.
Okay, but when you do fight, do you win 75, 80% of the time?
More often than not. And then there's also been instances where I've said to a casting director, I'm not going to give any names, but such and such a type of person who may have been somebody I worked with as a regular on another show, and I've actually, so that gives them it narrows it down. It's like, okay, cool. That I'm gonna, usually they'll bring in an array. They'll say, well, we'll bring in a bunch of different people, but I'll say, kind of how I pictured it was this, and I've been lucky where I've mentioned a name and I've actually gotten that person. They put in a call. Our director is friends with this actor who he worked with on another show, and if he's available,
Boom.
Yeah, and so it's an offer only. They don't even have to come in and read, so that's a nice thing.
Guy, this is a tough one for directors because all actors want to know this, but you guys, when you're working and you bounce from show to show, are actually very, very hard to find. So how does an actor manage to get your attention if they're not in an audition room with you or they haven't been hired by you? How does somebody market to you? And do you even get the stuff they send?
I have a ton of those, exactly that, what you described, as friends, and we all stay in touch now via Facebook. It seems to be the best way to do it. Mainly because I get invited to a lot of these workshops. There's a bunch. I don't want to name any in particular, but they're workshops that originally I got invited because another director had recommended me to the people that run this one. This one happened to be in Sherman Oaks. Now I've done them in Culver City and all over the place now, where it's from 7 to 10 p.m. I come in as a guest. Generally they get casting directors, but they like to have directors come in and redirect them because they'll pair up and run scenes together. And I know it's gotten sticky legally in the last few years about 8x10s being handed out, and there's because there's obviously there's people that have taken money and promised things that they can't and can never deliver. So it's gotten to be a strange thing, but there's no reason why somebody can't find me once I know them and they tell me where they know me from. Generally it pops right back, oh yeah, I remember them from the other night, they did the scene about, So I've been able to keep in touch with people that way.
Well, okay, but what about through your representative? Do you ever get actor materials through your rep?
Not really. I mean, generally what they do, I mean, you know, for what everyone thinks an agent and or a manager do, at the end of the day, they are really responsible for sort of being the sounding board for not so much finding work, but booking my schedule and making the deal for me. So a lot, you know, it's rare that that happens. In the past, again, being green, this doesn't happen that much, but in the past, people used to send me postcards to my agency, and then they would save up like 10 or whatever and put them in a big envelope and send them to me. But nowadays, it seems silly to, I mean, I have nothing against the U.S. postal system, but it seems kind of like silly when somebody can send me a quick message saying, hey, I'm in this play, if you can make it, that'd be great. Or watch for me tonight on The Defenders or on True Blood. And if I can, if I remember, I will definitely watch.
So basically, you're pretty cool with virtual marketing.
Yeah, and I haven't been, a lot of people go, how can you do that? Don't people bother you? Well, it hasn't gotten there yet. Hopefully it never will. Because I love actors, so I don't really see it as a bother. But I could see where if I got to another plateau in my career, it may be a bit much, and then I would have to do something different. But for now, it's fine.
How common is it when you turn around the camera to shoot the coverage of the non-star actor, in this case that would be me, does the series regular star not stay to work with the non-star?
It's almost never happened. I had a situation where an actor was tired, number one on the call sheet, an older gentleman. I didn't know he was leaving. He told me he was leaving, and I had assumed, because I was back at the monitor by myself, I assumed he had talked this over with everybody. Just said, "Guy, I'm tired. Let's just pick this up tomorrow." I knew we were going to be on the same set the next day. So I said, all right, I'll check with you in the morning, get some sleep. About 5 minutes later, a bunch of people ran up and said, what happened? And I said, well, he's going home. Well, he hadn't discussed it with anybody. So, but number one on the call sheet, star of the show, and I'm a guest, so I just said, look, I wasn't going to argue with him. So that was rare. And then in that case, we basically took his stand-in and put his wardrobe on our stand, and I just shot over his shoulder instead of over his ear.
So it's rare.
It's really rare. I once had a situation where an actor said, you're turning around on the guest star, and this is my last scene of the day. Are you going to include me in it? And I said, no, I think we're just tight on him. And he ran down his trailer, came back, and completely got in his sweats. Because when he was wrapped, he was going to the gym.
But he was still there.
He was still there. His performance was fine. I thought it was a little odd, but again, he's like number one or number two on the call sheet. Big hit show, big star. And, as long as it didn't bother the on-camera actor, which, generally if you come in as a guest, it's going to take a lot to rattle you. But other than that, I haven't really experienced that at all.
Will you ever go online and watch demo material of non-star actors, or do you actually still prefer it on a disc?
Nowadays I think with QuickTime movies and Flash and all that stuff and all that being available on computers, it's like we were talking about. I was talking to somebody a couple days ago about demo reels, and I haven't physically made DVD, put them in packages, sent them out in years, because anything I cut together, I can just put on guyb.com, or I can link it to a Facebook thing or a YouTube thing. It's so easy to do now. Most people are pretty savvy with that. So I would definitely prefer, and again, it's sort of the green thing to do. If somebody has a reel and you can easily link to it and click on it, and I get those all the time. And it's some people that are friends that are just updating their reel. I think that's the way to go, and I think it's a smart thing to do. And keep them short and sweet. Generally, I like to know what it is that you did. So if you can do a graphic where it says what show it is, let the graphic go away. 30 seconds, 45 seconds of this show, and do maybe 5 or 6 clips, so it's maybe 3-4 minutes.
And you'll watch that on your free time of a non-star?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm doing at that time. Sometimes I'm out of work and in my pajamas at the computer, and it's no problem. And other times it's impossible. I have a 5-year-old, and she commands a lot of attention, but she also goes to kindergarten too. So,
Guy B watching unknown actors.
Whether I know the person or not, I'll take the time. Nothing, you can't guarantee anything of it, but it hasn't really cost you anything other than the time and the effort to put that reel together.
That's it, my man. You're done. And the world really appreciates it.
You bet. My pleasure.
And there you have it, another outstanding 10 answers from a top Hollywood professional. I can't tell you how much this kind of information would have helped me before I moved to Hollywood back in the late 80s, or even if I'd been able to get these answers in my first 3 years in Los Angeles. Because an actor's career has so many variables and aspects to manage, Actor Biz Guru will continue to diversify its library with all types of Hollywood professionals. That way your personal ABG library can serve your entire career. In this crazy business of art, always remember, it isn't what you say, it's how you say it. It isn't what you do, it's how you do it. And yes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. And actors do it all the time. With the Actor Biz Guru library at your fingertips, you just avoided insanity, and you're light years ahead. See you again soon.